Hello everyone. So this time I don't have a magic trick for you, but I have a really interesting project. Some people know this as an origami table, some other people know this as a folding table, but without a doubt it is a really interesting table. Even though you may not use it all the time, but it is a table you must have. Mainly for street magicians, because once in a while I see magicians doing tricks on the floor, and then I was like, it's not something that it really looks professional enough, in my humble opinion. But it's okay, you know, whether they want to do it on a bench, on the floor. Obviously, when magicians are on the street, who's going to have a table? So this is a really interesting table that I modified according to my height. So let me tell you about this table originally. This is really known as a Harbin Pack table. He introduced this table in his book, The Magic of Robert Harbin. Okay, he passed away in 1978, and then it was introduced again in the Harbin Cadabra book by Good Life, I believe, in 1979. This concept, it's been a while, okay, it's been around for a little while, but for what I read, it was first introduced in a magazine called the Abracadabra magazine in 1965. So I'm gonna provide two links in this video description, okay? Before I even start building this table, I want you to be aware that in the link number 1 is going to be a table for my height. I am 6'5", 6 foot 5 inch tall, so I'm a tall guy, and this is for people that may vary from 6'6" to 6'4". It is a 40-inch height table, and in the link number 2 I will provide a second link, obviously, and in the link number 2 I will provide a second sheet. The second sheet is going to be for people which height is 5'6". Okay, there is not much difference between this table for people of 6'5" height and the second link, which is a table for people of 5'6" height. It's going to be a difference of 4-inch height in this table. Okay, when it comes to tables, it's not really a major difference. Now, originally the tables that they sell online, when you Google Harbin Folding Table, there are several designs. So I'm not really sure which design is the original design, but I believe this may be the original concept that I remember watching in live TV in the 80s, somewhere in the 80s. So I implement my own design when it comes over here to the side of the table, okay, to the legs pretty much. And it is divided in 3 sections, the bottom, the middle, and the top. So as you can see, this little piece, it should be 1/4 of the height of the surface of the table where you're supposed to be doing the card tricks or whatever tricks, card tricks, coin tricks. This is going to be really handy sooner or later. And at the end of this video, I will provide a lot of important information. How was I able to build this table without even meeting the carpenter? But I will give you all those details at the end. First and foremost, we need to create a template, okay, a real size template based on these measures. But how are you supposed to know the height of the table? Now, these tables, like I say, they may sell it in some magic stores from $150 to $300. So it's going to be up to you. You really want to build this table on your own, or you want to send it to a carpenter so he can build this for you. But I will give you all those details at the end of this video. Now, how are you supposed to know the height of the table? So you're supposed to stand up and have the arm in about 45-degree angle. So from there, once you already know the distance between the floor and your hands, and you divide that height in 2, and then that's going to be the height for the bottom and the middle section, and the top section as well. Now, one important point, do not change the width of the table. Doesn't matter the height, but do not change the width. Try to keep it as 22 inches as it is in the sheet. Just change the height, okay? Anyway, if you're going to be cutting this table and you're going to build this on your own, then you don't need to build the templates, okay? I build the templates because those are the templates that I'm going to send to the carpenter, so he knows the exact same design that I want and the measures. Anyway, let's build these real size templates, okay? And we come back. Okay, so once you already have that template, this is really important. There are going to be a couple pieces that I call extras. Those extras depend on the thickness of the table. So the material that I'm using is plywood. The plywood, I think it is the right thickness. It is not too light, it is not too heavy. It is the right, I guess, consistency for you to carry around and for you to perform tricks on top, okay? Anyway, let me go back. The plywood is about 1/2 inch thick, okay? And because it is 1/2 inch thick, the wood, you have to add 1 inch extras. Those extra pieces is gonna help the surface of the table to stay at a right level, okay? But I put those little extras myself after the table was completed, because if you're gonna put fabric around the surface of the table, then you probably wanna add 3 millimeters. So it's gonna be about 1 inch, 3 millimeters. Now obviously in this template it is hard to tell because this is really thin. When you transfer this work from the cardboard to the wood, obviously the plywood it is much thicker than this material, and that's gonna cause an issue later when you finish the wooden table, okay? Also, this can be a little bit of debatable. You probably wanna say, well, if I'm gonna be performing card tricks or coin tricks, how am I gonna be able to deal with this hole on the surface of the table? And the table, actually, I included this hole. So I will show you that in a minute, but you don't really have to, because when I usually carry this table around, I only put my hand over here on the legs, but I don't really need to put my fingers all the way through, okay? But you can if you want to, but I will explain that in a minute when I show you the table, the final result. I sent it to my mom in Mexico, but I never met the carpenter myself. So not only I have to send this template to Mexico because the work is cheaper over there. It depends the city, obviously. I also had to send a video how it's supposed to work, how you're supposed to open a table, which I will show you that in a minute as well, how you're supposed to close and open. So when I send this to my mom in Mexico, I never get a chance to meet the carpenter myself. So I need to send a video for the carpenter to have a right idea how this is supposed to open and close. And also, obviously, the template is going to indicate the right size, the right measures. But also, he painted the table, and when he painted, the issue was that he painted the joint, the middle of the hinges. You're not supposed to paint the middle of the hinges, at least the way I actually need it. It needs to close and open really smooth. So you can paint just the side of the hinges, just don't paint the middle of the hinge, the joint of the hinges, because that's gonna make the hinges really hard to open and close. And this is really important, and you should tell the carpenter as well. The duct tape represent the hinges that I'm using, okay? And all the hinges go on the inside of the table, all of them, except for these two. This little section over here is the only section that it has the hinges on the outside, okay? Everything else goes on the inside. I'm gonna show you right now how you're supposed to open and close this table. Okay, so to open this table, it is quite easy. You can do it on the easy way, split it. When you open it up this way, using both hands, notice the angle that I'm keeping. So one hand, I'm holding the bottom section, and the other hand, the top section. Open it up, let the legs unfold right under, and that's it. You can just put back this surface on top. Same thing, you want to close it. Make sure the legs are all the way in the back, and you fold it back in. Okay, that's about it. You can also use one hand, but this is a big table. This is not a little table like the ones they sell in magic stores, because the little tables, those are not really to execute magic tricks, okay? Those are mainly to put your suitcases, because those tables are really small. But in this one, because this is a big table, this is for you to do magic tricks. So you can use one hand if you want. Let's see if it works. Okay. But it's gonna make more noise, okay? So you probably wanna use both hands because of the size of it. It doesn't really matter because this is a really solid table. Obviously, you're not supposed to sit on top, but it's gonna be really good for you to do magic tricks. Now, even though this is a really solid table, I want you to see how easy it moves. To me, it's not an issue. Maybe because this table is about 41-inch height. So the higher it is, maybe the more that it moves, that it wiggles, okay? But it's not an issue. I've been using this table for the last couple of videos in YouTube, as you watch. At least you're doing coin tricks in which you drag. But I don't find this an issue for me. But this is something you should know in case you find this counterproductive for some of your routines. Before I go to the next point, let me show you here these little extras, okay? These extras, those are the ones I added myself. As you can see, there is no one continuous piece. But if you want to include these extras on the template, feel free. Just make sure that you add this little piece, this extra on the template. Keep in mind that the surface is not going to be level. But over here in the wood, as long as you use half-inch thick plywood, that's going to be okay. So you don't need to struggle adding these pieces of extras. But if you add them up on your own, this is what I did. I put one screw at this end of the extra and another one over here. But make sure you don't force the screws all the way in. You have to pre-drill a hole on this piece of wood all the way down, okay? So you don't split the wood in the middle. And you're probably wondering how I'm stopping the legs from closing all the way under the table. Well, this is the next point. There are 3 ways, but I'm just going to mention 2, which are the easiest one, because as you can see, I have this piece of metal right under the hinge, which is stopping the leg from going all the way under the table, okay? Which is also pushing against this opposite piece of metal. The reason I'm putting these pieces of metal back to back is so they can reinforce each other when this leg and this one push against this piece of metal. Otherwise, it's gonna make the screws more loose. And that's why I'm putting back to back these 2 pieces of metal. Now the angle that I'm keeping over here is about 60-degree angle. From the front of the table into the leg, it is about 60-degree angle. But it was actually another way that I was trying out, and it didn't work because I don't have the right tools. Is welding a little piece of nail over here in a hinge, on this side of the hinge, not on this one. So it prevents this opposite leg from closing all the way in. But that didn't work because I don't have the tools to weld. And this was my second alternative, which is really compact and it doesn't make a lot of volume to prevent the legs from closing all the way in. Now keep in mind that I'm using this table for over 10 years and it has been working perfectly to me. Okay, so the next thing I want to mention is not really part of the priority of this video tutorial about the table construction, but the design, that's going to be up to you. However, I'm using, as you can see over here, a contact paper, black marble design, okay? And this is self-adhesive. Contact paper, they usually have its own adhesive, okay? And I didn't fold it over here on the side because this is more a plastic material, so it's more difficult to fold it over here and create the right creases on the plastic, okay? So that's why when I stick one solid paper all the way across, I use the blade and cut right here on the edge, flush on the edge of the table, okay? So it is a sharp cut on the right design of the wood. Now over here in the middle of the table is also a contact paper. It also contains its own adhesive, but it is a different texture. And because of that, I was able to fold it over here to the inside all the way to the back of the table. You can purchase all these designs online. It is called contact paper. That's going to be up to you, whatever color and design you want to use. But over here in the surface of the table, I want to show you this little piece of fabric. I will explain that in a minute. Over here I'm using crushed velvet fabric. This is a navy blue color. It is one continuous piece from the surface of the table to this little piece over here. And I'm actually gluing the fabric on the hinge over here. That's why you see some wrinkles, because the velvet crushed fabric, or whatever fabric you're using, but in this case, it stretches only on one side, this direction, okay? From here to here it doesn't stretch, but from here to here it does. That's why I'm paying attention. I'm being careful the way I'm stapling the fabric on the wood, because it shares from this piece to this piece the fabric. So when I fold it, it stretches a little bit more. Now you can use 2 different pieces of the fabric and cover over here the piece, but I use one continuous piece for these 2 pieces. For a surface, I'm using a high density foam, 1/2 inch thick on the surface. Over here, I didn't have to use any foam, obviously, but over here I did. So that's something to keep in mind. In this piece of fabric, it really helps you on the design. I think it looks much better with this piece of fabric hanging up. And you can also add any promotion, any design, any logo. But the main reason I added this design, this piece of fabric, which is 6 inch long, is because it's gonna help you for some of your performances. But my wife is the one, she helped me out stitching this piece of fabric on the velvet crush fabric, which is the blue, navy blue color over here. I also use it to put it over here on top, okay? So this little piece of fabric will prevent the cards from flying away in case you want to do any production. And then you can just do a second deal, bottom deal, whatever demonstration you're doing. That's gonna help you out a big deal. I'm not gluing it on the wood, I'm stapling the fabric on the wood. Do not use glue, mainly because you're gonna fold the table and you want the edge over here as well to share and to move in case you open and close the table. But you don't even need to do all that. There are many other ways you can design the table. The design, that's gonna be up to you. But in the 1/2 inch high density foam, I just put a thin layer of glue and then I put a sponge right on top so it doesn't keep moving back and forward when I close and open the table, because I'm sharing the fabric from these two pieces, so the high density foam stays attached on the surface of this wood. But as you can see over here on the legs, I'm using a protection so it doesn't scratch the wood. I have a carpet over here, but in the wood surfaces, this little material at the bottom is gonna help you out to prevent any scratches, okay, on the surfaces. So probably you wanna keep that in mind in case you wanna use this table inside of somebody else's house. So this surface over here is more smooth and more gentle against wood surfaces. Okay, so this is the back of the table, as you can see. I didn't use any texture in the back. And over here in the center part of the table, I use a different contact paper just to conceal the contact paper from the front, which is the one I'm folding all the way across the edge over here. Because I have extra pieces over here in the back, I'm using a secondary paper to conceal all those discrepancies from the paper cuts from the front to the back. Okay, this goes later at the end. These are the extras over here, resting in front of the surface. Okay, look at this mess. Okay, this mess is concealed by this fabric, which again, this fabric, you can see the stitches over here all the way across. I'm not really gluing the fabric. Okay, you can see it is no glue. I just staple it. A heavy duty staple, wood staples. Okay, just find that online and just add several staples over here. You can see the wood over here. I use a second fabric to protect the high density foam, and then the second fabric on top. But that's gonna be up to you. You don't really have to do all this. This elastic that you can see over here, it was helping me so I can remove the surface of this fabric, so I can put my fingers all the way across the table. I'm just stapling the fabric over here, so it gives me enough room for the velvet crush fabric to go all the way to the top. Okay, so I can put my hand all the way across the table, and when I get it off, the fabric goes around the table all the way to the bottom once again. The problem is, after 10 years, the piece of elastic is not really working anymore. It is really loose. Okay, so that's a struggle that I had to go through. You don't have to. But over here, this piece of fabric, I also add an extra elastic cord. Okay, so it does restore the shape. When I take my hand off the table, it goes back. Well, not only that, I was trying to get all crazy with ideas. I was even thinking about, putting these clips. These are money clips to hold dollar bills, So I was thinking about screwing the clips right under the mat and do some coin productions. But those are ideas that I'm sharing that I never really get to implement in this table at the bottom. But something you can actually do in case you wanna do all that stapling, gluing, stitching of the fabric. You can use this fabric as a pocket, you know. You can put some of the stuff over here when you open and close this table. Okay, you can just leave it like that, and there you have it. I mean, that's the pocket. Obviously, it may be a little bulky when you carry this table around, but at least those are ideas that I never really get to use, but you can also implement it on your own in case you like it. Now, if the template can stand up on its own, that will be okay. It's not a must, but that would be a good way to start. So over here, it is kind of flimsy still. Okay, there you go. Now, if you are scared about the idea of gluing and stitching the fabric on top, you know, putting a sponge, I tell you this, you can buy a close-up pad. And this close-up pad, you can, or a car mat, I just purchased this online, and what a coincidence, because this mat happens to be almost the right thickness, the right width. It's half-inch shorter on the length, but it's half-inch larger on the width. So it is almost at the exact same size, you know, as the surface of the table. And you can just implement this car mat on top after you open the table. But the issue with myself is I want the table to be self-contained. That's why I did all those complicated stitches and staples around the table. But if you just want to go straight up into using the car mat, you know, feel free. That's a good idea. You can put it in and out on your own after you finish the routine. But obviously this is just a template, but I just want to give you that idea in case you just want to use the car mat, the close-up pad, instead of the foam on the table, okay? Now this is really important. You need to have some sort of a spring system or hooks. I'm using an elastic cord so the legs can stay close, because if you don't have this elastic cord, this is 1/8 of an inch, by the way, okay, the thickness of the cord. I think it is the right strength, okay. Now let's say you don't have this cord over here. This is going to be kind of dangerous. Let me show you. If you don't have this cord, if you move the table a little bit towards the front, let me show you from the side, okay. If there is no support on the bottom or over here on the top, if you tilt it to the front, the legs are going to move to the front really easily, and that's going to fold the table automatically, and you're going to drop everything, okay. There is no support, so you're going to drop the table. That's why the legs have to be close constantly, okay. So you have to keep that in mind. So you need to add a spring system. Some people use a metal spring. I'm just using an elastic cord, 1/8 of an inch. Make sure you tie it up just snugly, okay. So that's going to be enough to keep the tables so it doesn't get too loose over time. So you can put it on and off, okay. So that's it. And when you open the table, this is going to help to close the legs automatically. And these hooks, these are to hang up frames. You know, you can be really creative and you can use whatever you have at hand, okay. I just use these hooks because this is what I have right now. But I was thinking many wires. So as long as you can understand this concept, how this hook, the principle of the hook is working, so the elastic cord doesn't get loosed when you open or close the table, and that's going to be good enough. Just don't put a lot of pressure over here, just enough to keep the legs closed. So you may have enough room to open and close this table with the elastic cord on the hooks. So in case you use the elastic cord, as I highly recommend you to, when you close the table, just put your hand on the elastic cord and just push it against the table, okay? When you close it and move it to the back, so the legs can also move to the back. And then you can fold it. And as you can see, the elastic cord is still concealed very well under the table, okay? The audience never see the elastic cord. And the hooks doesn't make a lot of volume, so they still conceal over there. Now the table, I still holding the table with the 4 fingers over here, the center part of the table, and the surface of the table, I'm just using my thumb, okay, over here. So I don't have to put all the fingers across because of the surface of the table over here. If you want to do it as I did it, just put an elastic over here. Just keep in mind that the elastic will get loose over time, but at least you can put all your fingers all the way across the table, as you can see over here. Okay, but that's not really necessary. Just put your fingers over here and a thumb over here. And this table weighs 12.5 pounds, so it's not really that heavy. Now to wrap up with this video, something I didn't mention at the beginning, and this is really important. If you decide to staple the fabric around the wood, the same way as I did it, make sure you don't staple on a single layer of fabric. It has to be 2 layers. So on the edge of the fabric, just fold it and then staple on 2 layers of the same fabric, okay? Because the fabric is not really that thick. So you staple on a single layer, you may rip it off. So that is really important. Now the most inexpensive thing you can do, in case you want the carpenter's help, just give him these pieces, okay? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pieces, okay? The table consists in 8 pieces. So if he cut it, it's gonna be a piece of cake for you to paint it, put the design, and the design you want. It can be a contact paper, your favorite color, and then at the end you put the hinges. Just make sure you don't paint the hinges in the center, in the middle, okay? You decide to do it on your own. It's not gonna be that tricky, but you will have to buy the plywood, probably 2 pieces, because the plywood, it may be 2 by 4 foot, or some of them, they may be 2 to 8 foot. The dimensions. So it depends the size of the plywood you buy. Also, you will have to have an electric jigsaw, so you can cut all these 8 pieces on your own. So this is a really easy project. Now you managed to do this table, I'm gonna ask you to share your pictures in my Facebook page, the Arts and Productions Facebook. So that's all for this project. If you still have any questions, make sure you post it in the comment section down below.